Welcome back to our channel, where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Buckingham in trembles after Camilla's darkest plan to damage Catherine's reputation was exposed. A source said that Queen Camilla worked with the paparazzi to damage Catherine's reputation. Everyone was astonished by this news. A controversy threatening to eclipse any crisis faced by the British monarchy in a generation has emerged, with disturbing allegations asserting that Queen Camilla orchestrated a covert and systematic campaign to undermine the reputation of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Insiders from the royal household and experienced Fleet Street journalists claim that the Queen Consort covertly funded a network of paparazzi, supplying them with information on the princess's private schedule to capture her at her most vulnerable moments. The allegations portray a distressing account of jealousy and betrayal inside the House of Windsor. The evidence, including a collection of leaked schedules, bank records reflecting undisclosed payments, and the testimony of at least one disgruntled photographer, suggests a deliberate plot to use Catherine's private life for public humiliation. What began as whispers of courtly intrigue has now intensified into a substantial upheaval, requiring a confrontation that might undermine the carefully constructed appearance of royal unity and provoke internal discord within the family. As the institution grapples with the consequences, the essential questions are both severe and troubling for the monarchy. Could a queen who endured decades of public scrutiny really have plotted against the lady poised to become the future queen? Has a deep-seated rivalry shown more intensity than loyalty to the crown? As the truth emerges, can the already fragile monarchy survive the upheaval, or will this deep betrayal do an irreparable injury? A grudgingly adorned confinement. Buckingham Palace operated with the precise precision befitting its prominence. Servants rushed along ornate corridors, their footsteps softened by opulent carpets. The sharp sound of polished shoes on marble floors signaled the approach of servants and courtiers. Monarchical matters were conducted in private rooms with hushed, deferential tones. Nevertheless, underneath this veneer of normalcy, a palpable tension had surfaced, an unexpressed unease that something was inherently off, though no one dared to define it. The royal family presented a flawless front to the public. Catherine, Princess of Wales, functioned as its radiant centerpiece. During every public engagement, she exuded a natural warmth and sophistication that captivated the nation. Her smile seemed genuine, and her dedication to her duties was unwavering. The media and the public held her in high esteem, and the comparisons to her late mother-in-law, Princess Diana, were constant and mostly positive. She was designated the new People's Princess, a symbol of hope and modernity, representing the future of the crown. Cameras documented her every movement, and she navigated the constant scrutiny with remarkable ease. Nonetheless, inside the royal boundaries, her burgeoning popularity did not elicit universal pride. For Queen Camilla, it was a source of muted, covert resentment. Despite achieving her long-standing aspiration of being crowned queen beside King Charles III, she remained plagued by the vestiges of her past. Years of being stereotyped as the other woman had significantly impacted her public image, and total acceptance remained elusive. Resonances from a bygone era followed her, an incessant reminder that for many folks she would never be their true ruler. Those closest to the Queen Consort saw a significant change in her demeanor. Each time a newspaper showcased Catherine's joyful countenance on its main page, a chill would surround Camilla. Her smile would diminish her eyes, becoming alert and protective. A senior assistant, wishing to remain unnamed, described the atmosphere. The silence was never serene. It was the audible expression of latent fury. Every commendatory article on the Princess of Wales seemed like a personal insult to the Queen. King Charles was acutely aware of his wife's unease. He fought for her for years, facing public contempt and family reproach to eventually make her his queen. He believed that the crown would provide her the protection and dignity she sought. Instead, he saw her consumed by a familiar anxiety, the fear of being forgotten, of being eclipsed by a younger, more revered royal figure. Charles revealed to his closest advisors that Camilla saw herself as once again living in Diana's shadow, but this time the apparition carried Catherine's likeness. He experienced internal struggle torn between his unwavering loyalty to his wife and his obligation to support William and Catherine, the undeniable heirs to the institution he now led. At that juncture, the nature of the news coverage began its metamorphosis. The tales around Catherine transitioned from nuanced to explicit animosity. The photos had ceased to be benign representations of a royal expedition. A headline accompanied by a carefully edited video clip of only seconds claimed that Catherine had snapped at an aide at a philanthropic event. The recording was modified to depict her as tough and overbearing. In reality, she was responding to a logistical question under duress. Nonetheless, the tabloids misrepresented it, suggesting that her perfect facade was beginning to crumble under strain. William, Prince of Wales, was consumed with rage. "They are endeavoring to obliterate her," he conveyed to his brother, Prince Harry, during a tense telephone exchange. "This is not simply gossip. It represents a concerted attack." Catherine consistently composed in public feigned indifference. Nonetheless, in private, the repercussions of the claims were severe and very troubling. She had dedicated years to being a reliable, kind, and steadfast member of the family. Being seen as malevolent and unpredictable seemed very unjust. She was oblivious to the fact that these attacks were not capricious deeds of an insatiable media. The results were the intentional effects of a clandestine endeavor. Queen Camilla was allegedly engaging in clandestine encounters with those deemed inappropriate for a reigning queen, renowned photographers, mysterious gossip mongers, and tabloid insiders. Confidential agreements were being established. A person with comprehensive knowledge of the princess's actions was leaking information to the enemies. A person was assuring the presence of the media to see her at her most vulnerable and helpless moments. Speculation emerged among the royal staff. What prompts photographers to persistently trespass on private properties? How can journalists obtain detailed information about discussions that occurred within the palace? It resembled a phantom moving among them, an informant working directly with the media. Notwithstanding its improbability, mistrust began to coalesce along a singular trajectory. William was more alert, his sight examining crowds for telescopic lenses, his brow furrowed as he reviewed the morning newspapers. One evening, while situated in the serenity of their Kensington Palace apartment, Catherine spoke to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is the cause of their profound enmity against me?" William seized her hands, his gaze unwavering. At that point, he decided to reveal to her the harsh, dangerous truth as he saw it. "They do not harbor animosity towards you, Catherine. Rather, they possess affection for you. This represents the problem. They value you more than they will ever value her." The remarks impacted Catherine's heart profoundly. She had never tried to compete with Camilla. Her only ambitions were to serve the crown, raise her children, and assist her husband. Nonetheless, she has now understood. Her presence, notoriety, and grace were being used in a fight she never wanted to participate in. The atmosphere inside the palace became more toxic with each day that elapsed. Conversations would cease upon Camilla's arrival in a room. Catherine's dedicated crew was more vigilant, notifying her of photographers hiding near private events. The palace was progressively splitting into two opposing factions, one fervently supporting Catherine and the future, while the other desperately adhered to the existing power. No one comprehended the extent to which the queen would exert herself to maintain her dominion. Nonetheless, the truth began to surface in bills for rendered services, in discreet confessions from recipients of the monies, and in photos that violated standards of decency. The secret transactions, a campaign of concealment. The upheaval started not with a resounding clamor, but with a series of whispers, nocturnal phone calls, discreetly exchanged envelopes, and covert secrets divulged in the shadows where true power inside the palace is wielded. Queen Camilla, after years of navigating the intricacies of royal life from an outsider's viewpoint, acknowledged that true power was not just based on public pronouncements. It was revealed via covert operations and the narratives crafted behind the scenes. Her approach was first very subtle. Whenever Catherine engaged in charitable activities, accompanied her children around Windsor Great Park, or sought to cultivate moments of ordinary life, the cameras would always appear. Initially, it was seen as ordinary misfortune or a consequence of Catherine's rising reputation. Nevertheless, the timing quickly became too precise to be mere chance. Whenever she seemed exhausted after a sleepless night tending to her children, each stumble on an uneven cobblestone, and every unintentional sigh of exhaustion, a picture would materialize in the media within hours, crafted to suggest a woman on the verge of collapse. William, haunted by the memory of his mother's premature death caused by relentless media scrutiny, was the first to sound the alarm. Diana's relentless pursuit had enabled him to recognize the dynamics of a media frenzy. Upon seeing his wife's private moments featured on the front pages, a profound dread consumed him. "This is irregular," he communicated to his senior aides one evening, his tone strained with wrath. "Their access is quite beneficial. They must stay oblivious to her existence. An individual is supplying them with information." Concurrently, Camilla radiated an atmosphere of serene tranquility. She delivered lessons on duty and service, maintained a nice demeanor in public, and stayed at Charles's side as if she had no worries. Nonetheless, underneath the front, she was unsettled. She had dwelled too long in the shadow of Diana's phantom to be eclipsed by Catherine's rising prominence. Every narrative extolling Catherine's generosity, grace, and effortless connection with the public undermined Camilla, making her hard-won crown seem weak on the verge of collapse. A trustworthy friend of a senior royal subsequently disclosed having overheard the Queen during a telephone chat, her tone restrained but sharp as steel. They regard her as a saint, the most recent Diana. Let us scrutinize her virtuous exterior when her flaws are laid bare for all to see. This was not an expression of ire, but a calculated assertion that communicated more menace than any raised voice could do. The method was implemented with disconcerting accuracy. Camilla was too perceptive to interact directly with the photographers. The risk was severe. Instead, she allegedly operated via a constrained, dependable network of intermediaries, long-standing friends from her pre-royalty life, and people who owed her favors and recognized the need for discretion. Financial transactions occurred sometimes in cash to evade documentation, and at other times via complex third-party arrangements. In return, the photographers acquired the paramount ingredient they coveted: access. Catherine's scheduled travel routes and personal commitments were methodically revealed like breadcrumbs leading to a feast. The first photograph portrayed Catherine shopping alone, seeming weary and sallow with unkempt hair. The headline read, "Is the future queen under pressure?" The accompanying essay indicated that she was overwhelmed by her obligations and unable to cope. Catherine sought to reject it, asserting to William, "Their writings are trivial." Nevertheless, it was substantial. This was the first incision in a decline marked by other smaller injuries. The next consequence was the indistinct video recording of her at the charitable event. Altered to exclude any context, it depicted her as admonishing an aide. Her provision of a brief, unambiguous direction in a cacophonous setting was irrelevant. Headlines announced, "The temper behind the smile." William emphatically placed the newspaper on his desk. "They are misrepresenting everything," he seethed at an assistant. "They are endeavoring to subvert her determination." As the negative storylines multiplied, Catherine felt the walls closing in on her. If she laughed excessively, she was considered careless. If she seemed serious, she was categorized as cold and distant. The once favorable public narrative was progressively deteriorating. The photographers were thriving. It was the most straightforward profit we ever generated, one photographer would later disclose anonymously to a journalist. We did not require an extended pursuit of her. We received explicit instructions about our location and time. It was as if we were being offered wealth on a platter. It was apparent that some person in a position of power aimed to undermine her standing, and we were more than prepared to take the remuneration. Nevertheless, greed and arrogance often lead to imprudence. The scheme began to unravel when a key photographer in the network grew irate about a postponed payment. He had sent a rather substantial set of photographs illustrations showing Catherine attending a private medical institution for a routine checkup. The visit was trivial, although the subsequent revelations were significant, provoking much speculation on her health. The photographer expected a significant extra for the exclusivity, but the payment never occurred. Furious about receiving inadequate compensation, he began to articulate his grievances. He first spoke quietly in the bars and back rooms of Fleet Street. He notified other media that the information came from the highest levels, implying that the Queen herself was accountable for the revelations. The majority saw it as an improbable rumor. Nevertheless, this photographer had shown prudence. He preserved documentation notes with dates and times that accurately aligned with Catherine's revealed schedule receipts for expenses from a third party allegedly linked to Camilla, and most damningly, a muted audio recording of a conversation with an intermediary in which a voice strikingly similar to Camilla's was discernible, stating, "Ensure you intercept her at the entrance. It is inescapable." Upon getting this evidence, the journalist from a notable newspaper acknowledged the concerning importance of the narrative. Alleging such treason against a reigning queen posed a considerable danger. Nonetheless, the evidence was compelling. The whispers were about to escalate into a cacophony. Inside the palace, William's demands for an internal investigation into the security deficiencies intensified. The pivotal moment occurred with the dissemination of the clinic images. Catherine revealed the position to a select group of individuals, her husband, her parents, and, in a casual comment, Queen Camilla. As the images appeared, her hands trembled as she held the newspaper. An individual wished for this to be disclosed, she said, her voice quivering with a profound sense of violation. William's composure gradually deteriorated. He entered his father's study at Clarence House abruptly, forcibly depositing the paper on the antique desk. Her private medical information is being sold to the highest bidder, he asserted. What is the reason behind this event? Who has responsibility? King Charles, seeming weary and prematurely aged, contemplated the image. He had a dismal suspicion. However, he was unable to express it. He only closed his eyes as if the tranquility might shield him from the impending catastrophe. Nevertheless, silence could no longer conceal the truth. The dissatisfied photographer, acknowledging he had nothing to forfeit, decided to voice his concerns. The fragile barrier of secrecy built on discreet transactions and silent commands was about to fail. The confrontation. A fragmented realm. The palace could no longer pretend that the tempest was beyond its confines. The account of Queen Camilla's alleged engagements with the paparazzi has transcended supposition and incited a public uproar. It was broadcast on all news channels, extensively featured on the front pages of every newspaper, and debated by persons from London to Los Angeles. The monarchy has faced controversies before, albeit this particular situation was unique. This was not an external attack. It was a self-inflicted wound, a betrayal emanating from inside the family's heart. King Charles was an anguished person. He wandered the vast royal corridors late at night, his hands clasped behind his back, the portraits of his ancestors observing him with silent disapproval. He was a monarch trapped in an impossible situation. His love for the woman he desired contrasted with his responsibilities to his son, daughter-in-law, and the future of the institution they represented. For William, the era of diplomacy was ended. He saw his wife endure pain with quiet resilience, enduring hardship after hardship, with a grace that he acknowledged was taking a considerable toll on her. Having uncovered the truth, he resolved that the betrayal would not be allowed to continue any longer. The meeting transpired on a stormy evening. Rain lashed against the elevated windows of Buckingham Palace, the wind lamenting like a mournful chorus. William entered the private drawing room with determined strong steps, certain that his father and stepmother were inside. Catherine remained upstairs with the children as William had ordered her to be safeguarded from the approaching chaos. Camilla sipped red wine by the fire, exuding royal calm. A tense flash in her eyes showed her fear as William approached, his face frozen in rage. Charles seemed pallid and weak as a monarch watched his family dissolve. William replied, "You have surpassed the boundaries," breaking into the quiet with a cold tone. Camilla lifted a nicely arched eyebrow, sounding innocent. Excessive separation. "William, your purpose is unclear. Media have stayed steadfast. I have no duty to do that." "Do not mislead me," William murmured, approaching. "Do not deceive my father. We notice. Compensation tips photographers. You executed every carefully planned strike against Catherine. You're feeding her to the wolves to weaken her." Charles adjusted his seat, trembling. "Camilla," he pleaded weakly, "check that this is false. Confirm you did not engage in this behavior." Long silence from Camilla. Staring at the red liquid, she swirled the wine in her glass. After that, she laughed briefly. A minor prompt. "Do you think I had to coerce them?" She built her pedestal so high that it might collapse. "To record it, I may have guaranteed attendance. Cold, unrepentant admittance poisoned the atmosphere." Clenched jaw, William. He realized you harbor envy with frightening certainty. Despite time, you harbor envy. Diana's shadow was unbearable, and now Catherine's is too. You decide to destroy her. Camilla lost her composure when Diana was mentioned. Her grin evaporated. Jealousy. Her voice rose as she replied. "Are you aware of living a life full of animosity to play the antagonist in a story you didn't want to? I suffered that for decades, William. After she arrives. Well done, Catherine. Saint Catherine. Everyone's favorite angel. Did I have to keep silent and celebrate her while she erased me from history?" Charles's face contorted in pain. He respected and battled for this lady. Her confession of evil plotting pierced his heart. William moved closer, his voice hushed. "Catherine must not be erased. You must never touch my wife or kids again. Instead of false promises and betrayal, you should have defended your stance with dignity. You misunderstand power." Camilla clinked her glass with quivering hands. "You see it as a veneer of happiness and ceremonial beginnings. Power means survival. I will not be ignored. Adequate." Even in fragments, Charles's voice was regal. "Camilla, are you unaware of your actions? You shamed this family, the crown, and myself. You hurt a young lady who has dedicated her life to honorably serving our nation. I gave you everything: love, loyalty, and the best reward. Your way of reciprocation." King's eyes were tearful. For the first time, he viewed his queen as a burden that may imperil the kingdom, not as his love. Camilla became stern. "I did my duty." "No," William said firmly. "You accomplished your goal. Now the world sees your true self." He regarded his father. "This cannot continue. You can't shield her. Such behavior is unacceptable to the monarchy." Charles rose, slowly weighed down by his responsibilities. As rain hit the glass, the fire crackled. Finally, he spoke with anguish and resolution. "I won't let the crown fall. Camilla, you left me helpless." Her eyes widened in shock. "You claim what you must vacate Buckingham Palace," Charles raged. "Leave while the storm lasts. The public won't cooperate. The family cannot recover. I can't bear this with you. You keep your title for now, but you must reach Sandringham. You'll remain." It ordered banishment. Camilla stared at her husband and stepson, shocked and furious. "You will regret this," she raged. "Both people. Will they always support Catherine? Just as they lied to me, they will betray her." William's response was measured yet substantial. "Camilla never lied to them. She will never do that." The dejected queen consort sat on her chair. Pride prevented her from pleading, and wrath prevented her from crying. Nonetheless, the fact was clear. She was faced unmasked and expelled, silenced inside the bounds she had tried to govern. That night the castle was quieter than a storm. The queen was the first and most renowned victim of the war. The effects nationwide rage and princess rise. The following morning, royal secrecy collapsed, sparking nationwide outrage. A story formerly limited to politics and journalism is now the nation's fascination. The headlines were clear. A tabloid said, "Royal betrayal, Queen Camilla." Allegedly engaged in a conspiracy to undermine the princess. Crown in disarray as Camilla's subtle strife with Kate is exposed, claimed one. Even conservative broadsheets have front-page denunciatory headlines. Monarchy divided the conspiracy against the Princess of Wales. People reacted quickly and strongly. Protesters and supporters gathered outside Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace. "We hold you in high esteem," Kate stated one. "Protect our future queen," urged another. Many displayed Princess Diana photos, sending a forceful, "never again." Social media grew significantly. "Camilla must go" and "Istand with Catherine" went worldwide. Camilla as a Disney villain memes were popular, while social media feeds were full of Catherine photos with titles like "Grace Under Fire" and "Dignity Personified." This was more than royal fascination for the British population. It reminded them of past grievances. The persecution of Diana was a national tragedy, and the discovery that Catherine was suffering a similar ordeal, allegedly from within, was inexcusable. The media, which Camilla supposedly wanted to control, suddenly reacted strongly against her. Photographers she allegedly bribed were key witnesses, selling their stories for top dollar. All ugly details were revealed: secret meetings, cash transactions, and specific orders to photograph Catherine appearing stressed or unwell. The phone conversation was widely broadcast on news stations, and Camilla's weak but distinct voice helped bring her down. She lost her fragile public support unexpectedly. A recent research found that over 70% of Britons thought she should lose her title and ceremonial responsibilities. Catherine gained extraordinary popularity. Her silence, while doing her official responsibilities with calm, was considered a sign of strength. She represented fortitude, refusing to give in to anger. The greatest crisis of his reign forced King Charles to act. Buckingham Palace released a communiqué after days of grief. Brief but clear. The royal family is united in its commitment to duty and service. In these difficult circumstances, the institution's stability and members' well-being are paramount. The monarchy must always be truthful. The crowd grasped the implication without Camilla saying anything. The king has taken a future stance. The effects were immediate. Camilla's public appearances are cancelled indefinitely. Internal exile occurred when she was secretly transported to a faraway royal estate. Her relationships soured and her devoted servants sought transfers, fearing the humiliated queen. Her lifelong crown was now a sign of disgrace. The new royal order was led by William and Catherine. They regularly posed together, their affinity reinforced by the conditions. Once infatuated, they now showed fierce, protective devotion. Camilla's purported scheme backfired. It boosted Catherine's reputation. Camilla was remembered as the queen who almost brought down the monarchy. The storm had passed, but it left a humiliated queen in exile, a loving princess rising, and a monarchy forever damaged, requiring rebuilding around the lady who was betrayed. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.